Hey guys, and welcome to the Hobby News. Alright, so this week we've got some new little tasty treats for you. We have Tzeentch and Lumineth inbound. Well, not quite yet, but soon. We've got their, I guess, promo box or FOMO box, whichever way you want to say it, and a couple of new minis we'll have a look at, and it's boding well. This is a very timely release for the new GHB. General's Handbook, anyway, that one, and the Season 1, I guess, and if you haven't seen much on it, it's pretty exciting for match play and like tournament play games. I'm not going to talk too much about that here. I'll probably do my own little video because I'm pretty excited about it. It's if there's any time that you're curious about AOS or wanting to get into it, this is definitely the season to have a go at it. It's obviously pretty crunchy and pretty dense in terms of like rules interactions and all those kinds of things and what it does to a lot of the units in a lot of armies, but overall what that means is that there's so many options. Like tons of the units now are viable, at least for casual competitive games. In tournaments it's probably going to, anyway, we'll talk about this in another video, but you know, tournament scene will be a bit of a different story, but for you know, everyday match play games using this tournament pack or this General's Handbook pack is going to be pretty fun, and there's a lot of different units that you can use, and I think that's really healthy for the game. It's a very exciting time to be in it, as well as things like points drops on endless spells and so on, and that just means that magic is going to be a bit of a thing, and now you have Lumineth and Tzeentch dropping, which, you know, is going to play into that type of meta. You know, it's just really exciting. It's really cool, and yeah, I'm pumped. I got some new units the other day, so you're going to see those getting painted on the channel. There's a lot to go through. I've been just burning the midnight oil to get videos done, so you guys get some nice painting videos and some good hobby discussion videos and so on. But yeah, let's get into what they're showing us here, because it's a good beginning for what should be a really good season. And I would imagine that, you know, even though these books are meant to be, you know, 6-month General's Handbooks or whatever, I would imagine that some of these rules are going to carry over like they've done from the previous one to now, staying in GUR and all that sort of thing, and you know, allowing some of the rules to come over, mostly for things like the Incarnate and so on. But I would imagine some of these really good rules, like the Gallivette one, where you can fight within an inch of someone that's in combat, things like that, which is a very good thing for battle line units that are on large bases. You know, those sorts of rules I would imagine will carry forward into whatever the next one is. It would seem really bizarre to just drop all these really cool rules after only 6 months, but we'll see. Maybe they do, who knows. I've got a feeling that a lot of this rule, especially that rule, could it possibly end up being in something like AOS 4, because it feels like that's a really great fix for tons of units that just don't see play because of their base size and their reach on their weapons. And fixing this type of rule would fix that for a lot of those units. So, you know, just little things like that. I'm sure everyone else has already thought the same thing. But it's really cool to see that they're playing around with some of these types of rules, and, you know, changing core mechanics of the game, which really does shake up a lot of the list building and options that you have. But anyway, I'm not going to keep going on that. Let's get into this article. So, Magical Might comes to the fore in the latest Warhammer Age of Sigmar battle box. So Arcane Cataclysm. So it's Tzeentch versus Lumineth. We've got some nice art on the cover, as they usually do, and we've got this. So this is probably the first Lumineth model, apart from the Foxes and maybe one or two others, that caught my eye. You know, for a number of reasons. So we'll break this model down and take a look at it. So, you know, if you don't know, I'm a sculptor. Blight of Gods is my brand. It's in the description. You can go and check out the website. I do my own sculpts. It's all dark fantasy, and I've been a sculptor for many years, worked in movies and so on, and these days I do my own brand alongside my miniature hobby and so on. So, you know, I'm big on analyzing these things from, I guess, an artistic or an artist point of view, whatever that's worth to you. But one thing I really enjoy doing is female figures, and if you have a look on my website, some of the characters, I'm into doing these long braids and different hairstyles and so on female figures. And this one really caught my eye because it's very similar to some of the aesthetics that I try to add to some of my own characters. And yeah, it's a very soft pose. We're not getting this sort of really hard action pose here. You know, she's floating off of one foot. There's a lot of things about this that are a lot of fun, and you know, not normally the case for these types of models. And I think it's really nice to see, especially for the hairstyle, right? It's a nice difference that normally you don't get on these models, and yeah, it just adds something unique. I mean, obviously you've got the helmeted one here as well, but you know, I think the one without the helmet is the really interesting one. And the face itself, again, is quite interesting. So we're getting a slightly different character in those features to maybe the standard elven look. I don't know, there's something a little bit almost pixie-ish about this face. I don't know if they all have that, but it could just be the paint job, but there's a little bit of an upturn there that's maybe a bit more exaggerated than normal, and I kind of like that. You know, there's a lot of interesting things you could do with this face in terms of painting it. You know, you could put a lot of makeup on this and have it really bright and colorful. That'd be really interesting. It doesn't just have to be in these Lumineth colors. This is, you know, generic elven, you know, figure one. You know what I mean? You can come up with your own color scheme for this, and I think that it offers a lot of that. You've got some nice flat areas here in the cape, the nice bit of flow here that makes it feel alive and moving, even though it's relatively static. But you have a little twist in the body, that contrapposto there. There's lots of little features here which I feel are really nice, because the Lumineth range, I don't know, like I'm trying elves now. If you haven't seen on the channel, I'm painting basically one elf of each type that GW makes, and having a go at them and seeing if I feel that I like them or not. I'm the hobbyist that never did elves, and you know, only now recently has painted my first one, or first couple of them anyway. And, you know, trying them out and seeing how I feel. And the Lumineth are probably not my least favorite, but the aesthetic doesn't always grab me. It's something about the sort of the oversized helmets and so on don't exactly do it for me. But, you know, this one's got a bit more grace and elegance to it. And I think that will be the one that I'll probably paint for the channel, because I was looking around for a single one that isn't the foxes, because I really do like the foxes, but it's a bit more of a painting project than I want to do for these. So I wanted the sort of single figure thing like this, and I think this is a perfect one. So if you're also interested in elves and want to try one, this is a pretty nice one to do, because it's constrained. It doesn't have a lot of crazy details going on. It's quite plain, you know, got a lot of flat spaces, and that's where you can practice blends and color shifts and so on. You know, if we were to imagine this model without these colors and really go to town on some interesting color choices that are you know, really vibrant, you get really interesting results. So I think from that point of view, this model has a lot going for it, not just looking at it from the Lumineth in a Lumineth army, that sort of thing, but just as a painting project. And you have the cool little bonsai tree here on the side. Yeah, all in all, I think this is a winner for that army, and gives someone, you know, that's interested in just painting elves a different sort of model. I guess a more classic elven look, I suppose, but I think it works here for this character. So anyway, that's what I wanted to say about that. I'm really enjoying this for the first time, and it's hard for me to say those words about elves, but here we are. I'm growing, I'm changing, I'm learning, I'm trying to be a better person, right? So let's come down and take a look at what else they've got. So we've got some of their knights, and all the rest are obviously in their range already. You've got the sentinels and so on, and I think the blade veteran ones, or whatever they're called. Yeah, anyway, so we've got a full host here, and interesting that I think this is different from the previous box in terms of the troops that you got, and I would imagine that they're probably going to get, you know, a little bit of the nerf treatment as some of the other army books have gotten for this edition of AOS. I would imagine that things are going to be curbed in a little bit, and you'll see a different kind of list going forward. Certainly with this current new season in Galay, I think it's going to shift how Lumineth work quite a lot. Apart from their magic will probably stay strong and be very good for this version of the game. I would imagine it's going to be pretty good. So yeah, all in all, pretty fun for Lumineth players, and a nice new model. Now we've got this, which is super cool. Now, I had a bit of a hiatus in fantasy, so apparently this Curseling is from a character that already existed in the old world, in old fantasy, and they now brought it across. It's been in, I think, the Tzeentch book, but they've now done a fresh model for it as a character for current AOS. So this was a named character, I think, originally, and I'm not sure whether this is unique now, but it follows the same kind of story. Apparently, these two are brothers, something like that, and you've got one's a wizard, one's a warrior, and you can see the wizard one, directing the head on the back here, that nice touch where you've got the hand on the back of the helmet, and yeah, there's like a whole story behind this. I'm not sure if this model still follows that story. I mean, I imagine it would, considering the sculpt, but this is a really interesting model, and another one that is, I think hitting a nail on the head for Chaos players. This is a really nice idea. It's a really cool concept. The sculptural details here are fun, and suggest all kinds of things in terms of paint scheme. You can do all sorts of stuff with this armor and the sort of the really organic sort of mutant sort of flesh that's erupting out of that body. Really, really fun. All the feathers coming out the back here, with that sort of prickly spine. There's so many details that you can focus on and create something really interesting. So another really great model. So I think that both Tzeentch and Lumineth players should be really happy with this. But it does also mean that they're probably not getting much else, I would imagine. Normally speaking, the ones that just get the single model in the box with nothing else to show often seem to be the ones that only get one new model for their range, or maybe one or two. So I'll be interested to see whether they actually get anything more for their army, although most of their ranges are relatively new. So I would imagine that that's all they're getting, but you might be lucky and get a few extras. I know Lumineth have had like, a million books since they were released. So there's a lot of, tense feelings about Lumineth and the number of books they get, but at least it's done now and we can move on to the other armies. And but I think in terms of this particular season for match play anyway, I think it's important that both Tzeentch and Lumineth have fresh books for it to maximize the effect of what this whole season is going to do. I know that gives them a bit of, it could be advantage or whatever, but I feel for this particular version of competitive play, it'd be nice to see the ones that are probably going to be, make best use of it. Players have the most fun with their armies. This one looks like one where magic is going to be quite good. If they keep those endless spells at the points values that they're at, I feel like you can do a lot with these armies and have a lot of fun. And you gotta let everyone have some fun sometime. Maybe a different General's Handbook will be better for other armies. You know what I mean? But I think this one does definitely lend itself to these particular factions, and it's nice to see that the players that play them will get a chance to enjoy that, even though yes, one of them has had 400 books since release, but we won't go into that. So yeah, all in all, both these miniatures are awesome, and yeah, you'll at least see one, if not both, on the channel at some point, because they both are really good just for painters who want to paint and do different sorts of effects on them. There's tons here to do. So the rest of the models in the Tzeentch one are all as the range is. There's nothing new here, I don't think. No, they're all just the beastmen and so on. And they're, I guess, these are what they're Marauders, I suppose, the ones with the bare chests here. I don't know, but anyway, it's going to be good for match play. This is all really, really fun stuff. So, I'm pretty happy. I don't want to go too much into all the tech about it and all that sort of thing. Let's leave it on the Lumineth here, because I'll probably end up painting this one. It's going to be a really fun season. If you're into AOS and you're thinking about it, I would say out of all the different iterations that I've experienced and heard of from other players who have played in previous versions and so on, and my experience with Fantasy Old World, this feels like the best version that they've ever made, like in terms of just the game, this match play rules pack, and the current books that are out mostly. It feels pretty good. Like it feels like a pretty good game right now in this current sort of 6-month block. I feel like that it's really singing a song that's enticing, and certainly one that if you're involved in AOS in any way, you should definitely just hit up a mate and have a couple of games, because I don't think you're going to be sorry about it. It's got a lot going for it. There's tons of list building options. Yeah, it's unusual. It's an unusual kind of opening of this game that I haven't really seen very much over the many years that I've been in this hobby. They don't often flip things so much and give so much space for other units to become viable. It's a really interesting time to be in the hobby, and I can't really think of another time when they've done that with fantasy. Maybe someone can tell me back in old fantasy days, but I don't remember that ever being a thing. Most of their editions are iterations, and they don't generally push rules very, very far away from what it was before. They're usually just updates and cleaning up and little tiny changes. Obviously, except for ending fantasy and creating AOS, which is a massive change. But within an edition or within a rule set, there's not a lot of jumps. It's very hard to push those big jumps. But just with this one General's Handbook, it feels like they're attempting some quite different changes. And I think, as I alluded to before, I wouldn't be surprised if many of these things are actually in AOS 4, which undoubtedly is being produced right now, in the background, and they might be lifting a few ideas there to test out and, just test the waters a little bit on the community to see how they go with it. But it would be very likely that some of these things end up in future editions of the game. It is really fun. So yeah, just something to consider if you're already in it and you haven't played a game in a while. This is certainly the time to have a go, because as daunting as it is in terms of complexity, it is definitely going to be probably the most fun and open version of it. Tournament play obviously is a slightly different story in that it's a little bit more. It will probably. Yeah, the meta for tournaments will be a little different to casual competitive games, but in both cases, I think it's going to be pretty fun. No matter how sort of competitive you are as a hobbyist, it's going to be cool. So I'll leave you on that note. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit that like button, subscribe button. It really helps me out. And I guess I'll catch you on the next one.